Am I the antagonist for asking my girlfriend if she'd be comfortable with her parents watching her so I could attend my brother's band concert? My 23 years old male brother, 15 years old male, called me Monday and asked me if I could attend his pre-spring break band concert. I told him that as much as I wanted to come, I wouldn't be able to attend as my girlfriend is still recovering from surgery, appendectomy, and I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving her alone. When I told him this, he was very understanding and told me that he hopes she gets better soon. Then yesterday, he called me again excitedly and told me that his band director gave him a last-minute solo. I congratulated him and he asked me again if I could come and watch him because it'll mean the world to him if I could. I felt really bad and I told him that I'll try and see if I could come, but I wouldn't make any promises. He thanked me and told me to let him know. I went to talk to my girlfriend and asked her if she would be okay if her parents could potentially come and be with her while I went to my brother's concert. When I asked her this, she got upset with me and told me that it would be unreasonable and stupid to have her parents come just so I could go to a meaningless performance. I told her that I didn't mean to make her upset and I was just asking to see if she'd be comfortable with it. She told me that she wasn't and she felt like I was prioritizing my brother's performance over her health, which wasn't my intention at all. I told her that I'll let my brother know that I wouldn't be able to attend and said okay, and we kinda dropped it and just watched a movie together. That happened last night and my brother's concert is in 2 hours, and so I called him this morning to tell him that I wouldn't be able to attend, and he was understanding again and asked me if he could play his solo for me when I come and visit, and I told him that he could. I didn't think much of it, but after I got off the phone with my brother, my girlfriend told me that she still can't believe that I would try and abandon her to watch some dumbass show. I told her that I never tried to abandon her, and I just wanted to see if there was another possibility for me to go, because my brother wanted me there. I also told her that I don't appreciate her acting like the concert was pointless, as it was important to my brother, which is why I wanted to explore other options before I told him that I couldn't go. When I told her this, she just got upset again and rolled her eyes and told me whatever. Since then, she has just been laying in bed ignoring me watching TV. Whenever I try to ask her if she needs anything, she'll just ignore me or shake her head no. Go to your brother's concert and break up with your girlfriend who berates your family. Your girlfriend can be alone for 2 hours. She's being a drama queen. Get up and go. She doesn't need you for a couple of hours and can call her parents for backup. Am I the antagonist for not restricting what games my nephews could play at my house? For context, I, 28 years old male, am a man that travels a lot for work, as does my girlfriend. My sister, 33 years old female, and my nephews, 13 years old male and 11 years old male, come by my place often on account of my cats and aquarium needing feeding. I am an avid gamer with a PlayStation 5 and an assortment of games downloaded onto it. Work has unfortunately been really busy for both my girlfriend and me, and we were both gone for a long stretch of time. My sister and her kids came by to feed my cats and fish daily, as usual. I wasn't aware her kids played on my PlayStation 5 for long periods of time while I'm not there. They don't have games at home. I've played family-friendly games often with them in the past, and I guess I assumed they sometimes played on my system while their mom fed my pets, but I figured they'd just play a game of Fortnite, which is arguably kid-friendly by my sister's standards, and hop off. What I did not know is my sister would spend extended periods of time at my place while I was gone, and her kids would play for hours on other games. In particular, they found a game called Baldur's Gate 3, which is decidedly not kid-appropriate. It's a role-playing game with quite a bit of blood, curse words, and maybe most aggravatingly for my conservative sister, nudity. Long story short, my sister found her older son playing completely naked characters, with bare breasts and jiggling genitals in cutscenes. She also found out about this game by walking in on her oldest son, initiating a graphic sex scene with, literally, a horned, red-skinned devil woman. My sister, as a mother and someone who is vehemently against adult content in video games, read me the riot act, saying that it was awful I had this smut lying around my place. She was also upset because her son created what could be described as a transgender character, although I pointed out that actually, she was a dragon person, and maybe it worked differently. She blew up that I wasn't taking this seriously, and she's right, I wasn't at first. I agreed it wasn't kid-appropriate and apologized, but I told her I didn't even know that she would essentially spend entire days here with her kids. She said she isn't going to let her son spend time with me anymore, and I said that wasn't fair because my girlfriend and I actually like spending time with my nephews, and vice versa. She is afraid that my lack of supervision, affinity for the opposite politics of her families, and lack of respect for her as a parent have reached a breaking point. She has banned me from contact for a while. Am I the asshole? I would like to note that I do not play with nude characters, and it's not a focal point of the game. It's just something teenagers would do if given the chance, removing the clothes of the characters and toggling on nudity. My girlfriend and I play mostly for the story and combat. Your sister and her kids came over when you were not home and played inappropriate games on your system, supervised by their mother, without your consent. She is blaming you for what happened, even though she was the one present and not supervising properly. Am I the antagonist for not giving my baby the father's last name? Long story short, I, 30 years old, was with the father, 31 years old, head over heels in love with him, and we planned children and life together, the whole 9 yards. But 5 days after we discovered I was pregnant, he dumped me and hasn't really been involved since. When I asked what happened and what changed, all I got was life happened. I don't know what that means, and I don't really care anymore. I've seen him twice since we found out in November 2023, and the baby is due in July 2024. I invited him to my last ultrasound, which is the second out of 2 times, and he surprisingly showed up, so we were on okay terms. He asked me if I had any names picked out for the baby, and I told him my options, which included my last name. He said, "Wait, you're not giving the child my last name." My response was, 1. We are not married, and 2. He hasn't been there for me through this pregnancy at all. He ignores or gives me the silent treatment for weeks or a month at a time. His response was that marriage has nothing to do with it, and he has been preparing for the baby. If I knew how, I would say, but I guess stocking up on diapers? But me not giving his last name is crazy. I believe that marriage does play a big role in the child's last name. Not that we have to be married right away, but us building a life together or a stable future together leading to marriage would be more considerable, and that's clearly not happening, and I've come to accept that. The fact that he has been absent throughout my pregnancy plays a huge role as well. Pregnant women need a lot of support, and I've been navigating this all on my own. My mom passed when I was a teenager, and my father hasn't been the same since, so I don't have that kind of moral or life support. We need physical, mental, and emotional support to get through this life-changing time. He doesn't check up on us or ask if we need anything. We're pretty much out of sight, out of mind. All he said was okay, and I left the conversation with maybe we can hyphenate it. Time will tell, but he has reverted back to giving me the silent treatment and hasn't talked or answered me since. Am I really the bad person for giving the baby my last name? I feel like it's a privilege to have a child and be a part of creating and preparing for a new life. It's not just handed to someone because they want it, and if he wanted to be involved that badly so the baby would have his last name, he would. I'm a firm believer in if they wanted to, they would, so I don't get how it's such a big deal and crazy for my last name to be the given last name. He can figure out his feelings in therapy if it bothers him so much. Stop talking to your baby daddy, exclude him from everything, put your last name on the birth certificate and file for that child support. If he steps up and really changes once the baby is here in every aspect, both of you can always change it. But going based on his actions, he doesn't sound very interested in the baby as it is. Do whatever you think is right when the time comes. It's only your decision. My husband is making me miserable. How do I cope with someone who can never do anything wrong? I have been awake since 4 a.m. with a persistent feeling like this is never going to get better. I find it hard to even put into words what's going on. Anytime I cry, my husband mocks me and calls me a baby. Poor Kendall feeling sorry for herself. What? I had a meniscus repair a few weeks ago on my right knee, so I've been stuck at home unable to drive. It has been a very painful and difficult recovery. I felt very frustrated by the lack of mobility and isolated from being home all of the time. I was having a hard time the other day, just overwhelmed with negativity, and my husband told me I have rich white girl problems, and no one cares, and that I should just be grateful for the good things in our lives. I'm constantly feeling invalidated by him, and it's really starting to affect my self-esteem, which I already struggled with before meeting my husband. It's impossible to discuss problems in our relationship without him getting very defensive, and me basically having to bow down and apologize just to keep the peace because it causes me so much anxiety when we're arguing. He turns into such a mean, immature person when he's upset with me. No matter how level-headed and calm I am, he will say that I'm just freaking out at him, even though he is the one screaming and cussing at me. He says talking to me is a mind F cake and that I just turn everything around on him. I hope someone reading this can understand the mental torment I'm trying to explain. Like he's always pointing out things that I'm doing, that he's the one doing them. It's beyond frustrating and there's no reasoning with him. So I just apologize for upsetting him, to which usually he replies that I'm not even trying to understand why he's upset. He's always so concerned about me being understanding or reassuring or the bigger person, but he never seems to do that for me. I'm really at a loss. We're in couples counseling, and even our counselor asked in a one-on-one, why do I want to stay in a relationship that makes me feel so depressed? When my husband and I are getting along, he is the most thoughtful, sweet man. That's why. Because I'm overly committed to not being divorced unless I'm 100% sure it's the right choice, which I'm not yet. I guess this post is to vent, but to also help me vocalize, relate to what I'm going through because I find it very hard to explain. Can you please tell me what you see from an outsider looking in? How do I remain strong-minded and not let his words' immature behaviors bring me down? Honestly, you need to dump this tool. Your couples counselor, who sees all kinds of bad relationships, thinks yours is ruining your mental health. Not that it's mutually toxic or that you both could improve things, but that this man is making you depressed. Your brain says being divorced is worse than being in a bad marriage, and that getting divorced means the years you spent in the relationship were wasted. Am I the antagonist for mentioning the money my mother took from me? I've always had a habit of saving up since I was a child. Money that was given to me on birthdays or other festivities would go to an old wallet of mine and tucked away for safekeeping. Sometimes my mother would borrow from this wallet when she needed to make ends meet, and eventually would return everything she borrowed. Until one day, I found out that all of my savings were gone. My mother used my saved money to buy my younger brother an electric scooter. I felt devastated. I made a fuss about how it's unfair and straight-up financial abuse. She always excuses but your brother felt left out when his friends had scooter and he didn't. She says she was caring about how he felt. I pointed out how she didn't care how I felt about taking my money without my permission. She shuts me off and says I would have never taken it if I knew you would mention it. That baffles me and it infuriates me. She promised to pay it back, but I know she can't do that. This happened a few years ago. I get mad from time to time and I use this in arguments when she complains about bills. I'm currently a student and during my first year I was working. I helped with the bills, but I had to quit my job and focus on my studies because that's what is really important right now. When she tells me it's time for me to either ask your father to give us money or to find a job, I get really upset because she's giving me financial stress. She refuses to contact my dad for extra money when we need it. This month, my brother turned 18, so my dad stopped sending us money. For context, I live with my mom and younger brother. I see my dad often and keep in touch. My mom has made some infuriating financial blunders to spoil my brother. The money she took from me and some of hers was used to buy the scooter. My brother is spoiled and destructive, so of course that money ended up wasted when he trashed it. She also bought him expensive brand shoes because he refuses to wear anything less. When things get heated in the house about the financial situation, she nags about the bills and puts pressure on me. I get mad and I mention that a lot of this situation is her fault. I mentioned how she even took my savings to spoil my brother. We go back and forth. In the end, I am the bad guy because I mention the money as if I am being an asshole. I don't believe I am the asshole, but I suppose I'm not really helping the situation by mentioning how she wronged me. What do you think? By the way, I lost hope on getting the money back. Honestly, I'll save it up again, but I still feel wronged and hurt by my mother. Your mother stole your money. Your mother stole a child's money to spoil her other child. Ask her if she had ever once thought about taking something from your brother to give to you. Ever, just once. I understand you are hurt, and you have every reason to be. However, you realize there is no resolution to that situation. Keep present arguments to the matter at hand. It clouds your argument to try to bring up old arguments. It's probably best to get some independence. My wife admitted to baby trapping me with our first child. Is this fixable? For context, I started dating my wife when I was 23, and she was 20 years old. A little over half a year after we started dating, she got pregnant, and we decided to keep the child and to get married. As the title suggests, this was not a planned pregnancy on my part. I won't say it was easy to raise a kid when we were really just starting out as adults, but things worked out more or less. Since the birth of our daughter, we've had 2 more kids, both planned. Our daughters are now 15, 10, and 8 years old. Last week, my wife admitted that she had lied about taking birth control when she got pregnant with our first daughter. The reason she gave was that she was afraid that nobody else would love her or support her like I did. I honestly don't know how to wrap my head around it. I don't remember myself being distant or anything like that at the time. I know life hadn't been kind to her, to say the least, before we got together, but I guess I still don't really get it. Before she confessed, I didn't really have anything to complain about in our marriage. It hasn't always been easy, especially since we had a kid before we were really ready, but on the whole, nothing in my life has made me happier than my family. Before this, I would have said we had a very strong emotional bond, and I thought my trust in her was unshakable. I thought she understood me in a way no one else has ever understood me, and I thought I understood her the same way. Before now, I never doubted that she loved me. She always put real effort into our relationship, so I never felt like she took me for granted. There are more than a few things I've given up for my family, and I work long hours to provide for them, but I don't think I ever thought it wasn't worth it. I don't know what to think or feel anymore. On the one hand, the image I had of her has been shattered, and I don't know how to rebuild my trust in her. On the other, if I were to leave, I'd be throwing away my entire life. I know I should want honesty from her, but truth be told, there's a big part of me that wishes she just took that secret to her grave. That part of me thinks it was selfish of her to tell me, because she blew everything up just to assuage her guilt. In the week since she's told me, we haven't really communicated much. I told her I needed space to process everything, and she hasn't pressured me to talk or comfort her, nor to put an act on for the kids. But I can tell she's anxious and growing more despondent by the day. I want to comfort her and tell her I love her, but I don't know if it's possible to fix things, and I don't want to draw out my pain or hers if it's not. It's understandable that you feel betrayed by your wife's life-changing choice when you were younger, and it's important not to make any rash decisions while reeling from shock. She may have considered it the worst thing she's ever done, but that doesn't excuse her actions. Going to couples counseling and expressing your feelings can help you work through this, even though it may be destabilizing. Ultimately, only you can determine if it's fixable and worth working through with your wife, so don't rely on advice from strangers when it comes to your marriage and family life. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.